Let's talk about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. The Chicago Bears are on a 10-game losing streak, and more than likely, they're going to be on an 11-game losing streak to end this season. They have an interim head coach in Thomas Brown. He is not ready to be a head coach in the NFL, and he may never be ready to be in this situation. And I don't blame all of this on Thomas Brown. This man was brought in to be an interim offensive coordinator just a couple weeks ago. That was not his official tag. This man was a position coach. Shane Waldron was the offensive coordinator. They fired him. They went with Thomas Brown. The offense did look better. And within a span of just within a few weeks, Thomas Brown went from being position coach, interim offensive coordinator, to now interim head coach. That is too much too soon for him in the NFL. And I hope that he doesn't get a bad rep because of this, because this is a bad Chicago Bears team that was led by bad management and by a bad head coach in Matt Eberflus. That's why they fired him after the Detroit Lions debacle on Thanksgiving Day, to where he did not call a timeout and the game ultimately ended. And the players were very upset with him. But before I get into the coaching, before I get into the players, the Chicago Bears as an organization has not been good, to say the least. The last time this organization went out there and made the right moves, you made the NFL playoffs. But even then, you had a dominant defense. You had a bust at the quarterback position with Mitch Trubisky and a terrible head coach with Matt Nagy. Ryan Poles, his job should be in question right now. Yes, he's a general manager that went back there and he traded the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers went out there, they selected Bryce Young, and at the time, it was a major haul. They got DJ Moore, a franchise wide receiver, a first-round pick that became the first overall pick with Caleb Williams, and you got more draft capital. On the surface, that's a good trade, and I still think that that's going to go down as one of the best trades in Chicago Bears history. But at the same time, what has he done to help out this offensive line? This offensive line is terrible. You drafted Darnell Wright in the first round. So far, he has not been a true franchise tackle for you just yet. And even when this offensive line is fully healthy, they're terrible. Justin Fields was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL a couple of years ago. Right now, Caleb Williams is in the same situation. He's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this season. And both quarterbacks were criticized for this. They hold on to the football for too long. Well, the Chicago Bears knew this when they selected both of those quarterbacks in the first round. That's why you have the proper coaching and rookie training camp to go out there and get them out of that bad habit. Most of the top quarterbacks in the NFL that are selected in the first round, a lot of the guys that come from top programs like USC, Ohio State, they're going to go out there, they're going to hold on to the football for a very long time in college because they're trying to make the extra play. They're Superman in college. We've seen this with Sam Darnold at USC. Majority of the sacks are not on Caleb Williams. Not every sack is created equal. And I'm not trying to come on here and say that Caleb Williams doesn't deserve blame. But this man went 9 games in a row without throwing an interception. He has 19 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the season. But something has to be off with the organization when you are having the same problem with all 3 of your latest quarterbacks that you selected in the first round. Now, Mitch Trubisky, I believe that he's just a bust. He's not a good starting quarterback in the NFL. There's still something there with Justin Fields. We saw this in the first quarter of the season this year with the Steelers. Justin Fields can go out there and he can play. He has the athleticism, he has a rocket arm, and he had a lot of good moments with the Chicago Bears. The rushing offense hasn't been the same without Justin Fields, because Justin Fields gave you an extra layer of athleticism because of his ability to move from going out there and getting sacked. And Caleb Williams, he has good mobility, but he doesn't have the same mobility as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But he is still going out there, evading pressure, making nice throws in the Detroit Lions game, making nice throws in the Seattle Seahawks game. I'm not questioning Caleb Williams. I still believe that he's going to be a franchise quarterback. And you will get a lot of haters that come out and say, hey, he sucks, he's a bust. No. That's not the case here. This is an organization that can't develop quarterbacks in the proper way because their offensive line protection is terrible. And a lot of that comes from the front office. Ryan Poles is a former offensive lineman, but yet he can't go out there and draft the right offensive lineman. And when they go into free agency, they bring over a player like Nate Davis, who has been a terrible guard with the Chicago Bears. He has been horrible. Caleb Williams has been sacked 67 times this season. That's the 4th most in the NFL in history. David Carr, 76. Ronald Cunningham, 72. And when you look at this situation with the Bears, if you don't go out there and bring in the right pieces, you're asking for trouble. I've seen it with Andrew Luck. I've seen it with other players in the past, just like Cam Newton. You don't fix the offensive line, you're asking for an injury to happen. And knock on wood, I don't want to see that happen to any quarterback in the NFL, but offensive line protection is one of the biggest weapons that you can have in the NFL. It's the most important position group to get down in this league. And especially in this division with the Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, and Minnesota Vikings. All three of those teams can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. Caleb Williams, you're not going to move on from him, and you reset your clock. Just because Ryan Poles went out there and made one good trade with the Carolina Panthers should not just save his job. He brought in Matt Eberflus. And now I want to talk about the coaching here. The coaching this year has been terrible. Horrible. Shane Waldron was a horrible offensive coordinator. They fired him. Who brought him in? Matt Eberflus. Who ultimately brought in Matt Eberflus? Ryan Poles did. They moved off of Matt Eberflus. But before we get into why they moved off of him, we saw this at the beginning point of the season. That man is one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. We saw it last year with Justin Fields. He is just a very good defensive mind at best. I will give him credit. The defense has not looked the same since he got fired. But at the same time, the defense was still very underwhelming in terms of getting to the quarterback on a consistent basis with the pieces that he was given, especially with Montez Sweat. He may be a linebackers coach or even defensive coordinator at best, but as a head coach, he will never be that in the NFL in that elite group. Maybe he gets a second chance, but when I look at Matt Eberflus, he deserves to be at home because of that Detroit Lions debacle, and they should have fired him a very long time ago. In actuality, they should have went out there and fired him before the season started. The Chicago Bears should do whatever it takes to go out there and try to bring in Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator with the Lions. And if he wants Ryan Poles gone, so be it. You bring him in and you hope that he can fix Caleb Williams and he can fix his offense, because the Chicago Bears have struggled with their offense for many, many years now. Historically, the Bears are known for defense. They're really known for offense. And you have a quarterback that could be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You want to make sure that he can hit his ceiling. You want to make sure that he can hit his potential, his full potential with the Chicago Bears. You want to make sure that he has not hit his ceiling due to his bad offensive line. When I look at the rushing game is not the same because the offensive line is terrible. They brought in DeAndre Swift, not a bad running back, but I say this every single year. Be careful when you pick up running backs from the Philadelphia Eagles. The Carolina Panthers learned this the hard way when they picked up Miles Sanders. They play in a great system with a quarterback that can run all over the place, and they play behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. DeAndre Swift, not a bad running back, but he is not a transcendent talent to have. When I look at the wide receiving position, you have Keenan Allen. He's basically just a one-year rental. He is still a very smooth route runner, but he struggles to stay healthy. I would not be surprised if he went back to the Los Angeles Chargers after this season. You have DJ Moore, who is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL to have. I've seen this man play on a lot of bad Carolina Panthers teams. He's played with Cam Newton. In the back end of his career, he played with Sam Darnold. And at the time, Sam Darnold with the Panthers is not the Sam Darnold we see right now with the Minnesota Vikings. He played with Baker Mayfield with the Carolina Panthers, and he also played with Teddy Bridgewater and PJ Walker, and he always finds a way to go out there and produce. And he played with Justin Fields last season. DJ Moore is a true number one wide receiver. You have Rome Odunze. I like Rome Odunze. I like the upside, but an offensive lineman would have been a better pick instead of just going out there and trying to build this super team at the skill position. Because on paper, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, all three of those guys give you something different. DJ Moore can kill you over the top. He can kill you underneath. Keenan Allen can be a deep threat depending on the situations, but he is one of those veteran guys, a smooth route runner, can kill you in the intermediate routes. And you look at Rome Odunze, the potential is there to be a major deep threat, but right now he's a good safety value because of his hands. And then you also look at Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet has been a very good receiving tight end over the last few years in horrible situations. But the problem is this: Shane Waldron did not know how to go out there and use any of these weapons to their fullest potential. And I go back to one game that really crushed this season for Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, and the fan base. Let's go back to that game against the Washington Commanders. They had the game won. Caleb Williams is going down there, getting them in scoring range over and over again. But you have Shane Waldron handing the ball off to an offensive lineman. He fumbles the football. Caleb Williams goes down there. They score, and they get the Hail Mary play. And this brings me over to the defense. Tyreek Stevenson had a very good season last season. He is still a very good cornerback. But in the NFL, I'm tired of hearing about this. They're a rookie. They're in their sophomore season. Give them time. He made a stupid decision. You're arguing with a fan. The game is not over with. This is not on the coach here. This is on Tyrique Stevenson. You went over there. You batted the football up in the air. You lost the game. All of the energy was sucked out of the building for the Chicago Bears, and they have not went out there and they have not looked the same since then. Caleb Williams had a lot of impressive performances against bad football teams. He also had a very good game against the Detroit Lions, not once but twice, and against the Minnesota Vikings. He made a lot of special throws. But when I look at this situation, that is the game, and that moment ruined the Chicago Bears season in Caleb Williams' rookie year. And that was more so on Tyrique Stevenson than anyone else, because you wanted to be stupid and you wanted to go down there and argue with a fan and say, hey, we have to win. Instead of going out there and sticking to your job, you could talk your trash after. That's a maturity problem on him. And I'm not going to let it go because you're a paid professional in the NFL. Act like it. When I look at Jalen Johnson, very good, true number one cornerback, that's a mature player that goes out there, he does his job. The same with Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat has been very underwhelming this season, considering the fact that he led not one but two teams in sacks last year with the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears. I think that he will be a very good building block to build around on this defensive line. You have DeMarcus Walker, very good run stopper. He's not elite pass rusher, but he'll be able to go out there and give you good snaps here and there. You have Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, two very good linebackers. But like I mentioned before, the defense hasn't been the same because they're used to defensive adjustments and play calls by Matt Eberflus. I will give him his credit. The man made a lot of good defensive adjustments. This was a top rushing defense in the NFL last season. And at the beginning point of the season, the rushing defense did look solid yet again. But as soon as they fired him, the rushing defense hasn't been good. We saw the San Francisco 49ers go out there with backups. They rolled over this team. We saw the Detroit Lions. They went out there. They dominated this team. The Minnesota Vikings, they went to overtime with the Chicago Bears, but it was a block kick in that matchup. And they've dealt with bad special teams play also. It was a block kick in the Green Bay Packers game. They've lost a lot of games by one score this year. This is still a football team that doesn't know how to win. But bringing in the right coach can help fix all of that. But I am concerned about this team in the future. Because let's just be honest here. It's hard to go out there and fix your offensive line in one season. This team has dealt with offensive line issues for the last 4 years, and it's ridiculous to this point. They remind me so much of the New York Giants. I don't understand how you have a former offensive lineman as a general manager, and he can't go out there and he can't scout offensive linemen. He can't go out there and he can't bring in the right pieces. Instead, he wants to go out there and bring in an extra wide receiver to help speed the game up. Wide receivers don't matter. Running backs don't matter if your offensive line is going to let your quarterback only have 1.5 seconds in the pocket. And Caleb Williams, if he did not have the mobility that he has, he would have easily been sacked 70 times this season up to this point. They have to go out there and they have to fix this offensive line. And I do believe that they should have a meeting with Ryan Poles. If they can't bring in a guy like Ben Johnson, which should be the number one target, it talks about Pete Carroll. I wouldn't even bring in Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's defense with the Seattle Seahawks were terrible the last 4 years. Their defenses were not good, especially against the run. Pete Carroll started to get exposed, and I believe the game has passed him by. Very good head coach in the early stage with the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to go down as one of the best coaches in USC history. Hell, he may be the best coach in USC history with all the things that he did with Reggie Bush and those teams. He was phenomenal over there. But you need to bring in someone that can fix this offense. And hopefully they can bring in some right defensive connections. Ben Johnson should be the answer here. And there's no Bill Belichick on the table. He's going back to college right now. Maybe you bring in Mike Vrabel. Look at what he was able to do with the Tennessee Titans. I think that he's a solid head coach. I don't know about his offensive philosophy, but the one thing that I do know, he's a hard-nosed coach, and he's not going to take nonsense. So with Tyrique Stevenson going over there and mouthing off the fans, he would have got benched. And speaking of getting benched, that's what the head coach did. Matt Nagy benched him, and then he went out there and pulled himself out of practice. Situations like that, personally, if it's me, I'm either going to trade the player or possibly go out there and do something more extreme, like suspend a player for the next 2 to 3 games, because you can't get away with that. You already cost us the football game, and you're trying to cop an attitude because the team's going out there and benching you. Maturity is a problem on his end, but I believe the right coaching can come in and fix a lot of this. But I do believe the Chicago Bears, they're a couple of years away from contending. Because you look at this division is hell. But let me know in the comment section below how you guys feel about the Chicago Bears and how do you feel about Caleb Williams in the future. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.